A human who builds wealth by accident is still poor at the level that matters most, your identity. You think you can buy habits later. You think you can reprogram tomorrow. The truth is brutal and immediate. The small choices you defend today carve the path of your life. You wake up every morning and follow grooves your mind already dug, without asking permission. Why does it feel impossible to change? Because your brain rewards short-term relief and forgets the promise of long-term power. In this video, you will learn a step-by-step method to reprogram your mind and create wealth habits from scratch. Lessons inspired by classic principles, but rebuilt for your biology and your daily life. I have watched people trade futures for comforts and also watched them reverse it. It is not about willpower alone. It is about engineering your environment and training the reward system so progress itself becomes pleasurable. Imagine someone who reaches for sugar when stressed. The sugar is pause, the sugar is reward, the sugar is the familiar escape. You will not only stop reacting, you will learn to feel real satisfaction when you move toward your goals. Listen carefully. This will demand decision, strategy, and patient repetition. You need to understand the machinery under the hood before you try to fix anything. Dopamine is not evil. It is an assignment of value to action. Your brain marks what worked recently with a highlight and then nudges you toward it again. Repetition engraves the path and turns action into autopilot. When you think you are failing, you are often the victim of a learning system that favors the fast reward. That is why willpower alone feels inadequate. It tries to use scarce conscious energy against the chemical tendency that is automatic. If you want to reprogram, you must design new, faster circuits that beat the old circuit for speed and pleasure. The rule is simple. Offer the brain a substitute that is easier, faster, and gives a comparable signal of reward. That is the engineering problem we will solve together. Consider a practical substitution scenario. Maria used to buy time with cigarette breaks and cheap snacks. Then she lost momentum in her work and blamed distraction. Now she uses a different sequence and her life changed. Scene 1. In the coffee shop, Maria and her friend David speak while the coffee steams and the city smell mixes with paper and leather. "I'm stuck again," says Maria. "You always say that," says David with tired eyes. "No, I mean really stuck," she replies and taps her fingers on the table. "So what if you replace the cigarette with a 5-minute walk?" he offers. "A walk will not feel like the same relief," she says. "Maybe not at first," he answers, "but what the brain wants is a predictable pause and a tiny reward. If the walk gives you a breath of cool air and a small sense of accomplishment, it starts to score better." "And if I fail?" she asks. "Then you try again the next time. Stop calling failure a verdict," he says. This exchange continues 6 times until they design a ritual in detail. "Leave the lighter on the shelf," David says. "Put a pair of shoes by the door," Maria says. "Set an alarm that says move now," he adds. "Tell Priya and Tom we are trying this," she replies. "Celebrate 1 hour of focus with a clean cup of tea," he says. "Record it in the notebook," she decides. "Keep going even if it sucks the first week," he insists. Their voices are small in the noisy cafe, but the plan is concrete, a substitution mapped with cues, rewards, and social accountability. The scene is full of sensory anchors. You can use the smell of coffee, the roughness of the paper, the metallic click of a lighter, the breeze on the cheek, the warm teacup in your hand, the click of keys on a laptop. Each sensory detail later becomes part of the ritual that signals the brain that progress is occurring. You will learn to swap the quick reward for a constructed reward that the brain begins to prefer. You are not denying pleasure. You are redirecting its address to a new building site. Your environment has more authority over your choices than you do. Objects speak louder than promises, and people act as accelerants or inhibitors. Look around right now and name the top 5 temptations by sight. Now, imagine removing them from your line of sight. In the apartment of Marcus, the television sits at the center, but his wealth habit requires a quiet corner for concentrated reading. Marcus calls his friend Elena to explain. "I am moving the TV to the storage room," he says. You cannot do that, Elena laughs. Watch me, he replies. I am changing the room to favor work, not distraction. Marcus names allies who will enforce his new territory. Sarah, who will text at 8 for a reading check-in. Priya, who will bring a journal. Lisa, who will share a playlist. Javier, who will run the first mile with him. And Tom, who will hold him accountable on Sundays. The act of naming people gives momentum and creates social friction against relapse. The changes are physical. Remove the phone charger from the bedside table. Replace it with a book. Place a bowl of fruit on the kitchen counter. Hide the bag of chips in a box in the garage. These small changes accumulate like compounding interest, and they change the default behavior of the room. Biology supports the building of habits. When you respect natural cycles, sleep is a basic but neglected wealth habit. Sleep consolidates learning, it sets the thresholds for self-control, and it calibrates dopamine sensitivity. If you skimp on sleep, you will need more intense stimuli to feel rewarded, which pushes you toward riskier immediate pleasures. Establish a ritual before. Bed a short wind-down that reduces screen time and introduces cues associated with rest. Lay out tomorrow's clothes on the chair, brush your teeth, and write one sentence about progress. Place a low light by the bed and breathe for 3 minutes. These sensory rituals matter. The feel of cool sheets, the smell of lavender, the soft hum of a fan, the weight of the blanket, the dim glow of a lamp are signals to the brain that learning and consolidation will happen now. When you consistently honor these cues, you are creating a biochemical environment that favors long-term behavior change. There is a deeper story behind the person who wants to change, and you need to excavate it. I will tell you the backstory of the protagonist you will meet across this video. 3 short chapters of origin that explain why the pattern exists and how it can be reshaped. As a child, he watched his parents exchange time for small comforts, their conversations full of worry and short-term fixes. He learned to soothe fear with buying small tokens, and later with scrolling late into the night. In school, he was diligent, but he chased quick validations, a like on a post, a compliment that faded. In his first job, he discovered the small pleasures filled the long gaps of boredom, and he mistook them for achievement. This pattern intensified after a sudden loss. He mistook activity for meaning, and his rituals became safety nets rather than paths. Now, as an adult, he recognizes the pattern and chooses to redesign his life. He decides to become deliberate about where the mind seeks pleasure and to build rituals that reward incremental progress. In the present, he keeps a ledger, a notebook where every small victory is recorded, and he meets with allies weekly to discuss progress and friction. This backstory shows that identity is formed by cumulative micro-choices, and thus can be reformed by new micro-choices enacted with discipline and design. Learning is not a moral failure. It is a training problem. You will fail, and that is expected. The necessary frame is repetition and tolerance for messy beginnings. The difference between someone who succeeds and someone who does not is the willingness to return to the plan when temptation wins, and to do so without excessive shame. Here is an internal conflict scene where the protagonist faces a late-night impulse. The tension is tight and visceral. He sits at the desk, the window open, the city lights like distant embers. He feels the call to check his phone, to seek the easy hit of distraction. He remembers the ritual he set, the shoes by the door, the tea in the cupboard, and the commitment to write 1 page. His mind offers reasons to delay. You deserve a break. You need inspiration. The deadline is not real. He breathes and feels his chest tighten, the palms sweat. A memory of old comfort surfaces, and an abrupt taste of sugar in his mouth like a ghost. He imagines both paths clearly, the immediate relief of scrolling and the slow satisfaction of completion. He chooses to stand and walk to the kettle, and the act of moving generates a small sense of agency that grows into momentum. The tension resolves not with triumph, but with a small victory that is repeated and thus consolidated. You must expect biological pushback when you change the scale and timing of rewards. Dopamine reacts to prediction error. It spikes when outcomes are better than expected, and it sinks when outcomes are worse. The strategy is to create predictable small wins that produce positive prediction errors more often than the old habits did. Begin with micro-experiments, 3 days of altered rituals. Then assess, learn, and adapt. Use a simple measurement system, a note in a journal, a tick in a box, and share the result with one ally. This is not about perfection, it is about data and iteration. Now I ask you to do something public and binding. If you are tired of shallow promises, type in the comments, "I am rebuilding my mind." Use that phrase as a public pact. When you write it, you create a small social contract and you convert an internal intention into an external trace. Others will read it and feel less alone. When you commit, you also get access to community reinforcement, which is a powerful multiplier. Say it now and then keep reading because the next part will give you the exact first week routine. Day 1. Choose one habit to replace, map the cue, routine, and reward. Write the plan in a physical notebook and name 2 allies, Sarah and Marcus, to check in. Day 2. Prepare the environment. Remove 2 visible temptations and place 1 supportive cue, fruit on the counter, a pair of shoes by the door. Day 3. Experiment with the ritual. 5 minutes longer than needed. Record the feeling. Days 4 to 7. Repeat and refine. Add a nightly consolidation routine and respect sleep. This first week is the scaffolding for the 66-day experiment that follows. Keep simple, measurable wins and maintain social accountability. When you feel the urge to quit, read the first line of this video and remember that identity is shaped by repeated tiny acts. There are moments when the pressure will climb and you will need more than a tactic. You will need a decision. I will describe 2 climaxes where choices are decisive and raw. The first moment arrives during a family dinner. The old habit is to reach for approval through consumption. The protagonist feels judged. The urge to escape is immediate, and the memory of past choices flashes with shame. He stands up, breathes intentionally, and speaks openly about the experiment he is trying. His mother looks surprised. His brother scoffs. His friend Javier nods and says, "I will walk with you tomorrow." The second moment comes during a work crisis, a project derails, and the easiest path is to binge and avoid. He chooses instead to take a single pragmatic step, contact one ally, and schedule a tiny action step. The momentum from that single act shifts the trajectory away from panic toward control. These tensions are visceral and costly, but each decision to act rebuilds the identity you want. You will meet a group of allies through this story. Sarah, the planner, who tracks rituals. Marcus, the neighbor who enforces space. Elena, the friend who offers honest feedback. David, the coach who asks simple questions. Priya, the night check-in. Lisa, the music keeper. Tom, the weekend mirror, and Javier, the first-mile partner. Each takes a role specific and practical. They will help you build friction against relapse and offer celebration when you log progress. If you want a long-term scaffold, use the 66-day frame as a guide, but personalize it with micro-rituals and social anchors. Expect lapses, but design a recovery ritual that is immediate and non-shaming. 5 deep breaths, call a friend, do a short walk, record 1 lesson, and resume. Momentum compounds like interest, and your job is to keep the principle intact. Now imagine 1 month from now, you wake up and notice a tiny change. You feel the habit weight less intrusive. You reach for the new ritual without bargaining, and you sense some calm. 3 months in, you measure real results. Finances more ordered, time less chaotic. The notebook shows patterns of wins and a few failures, but the net trend is progress. 6 months in, your identity is partially rewritten. You are the kind of person who plans, who honors sleep, who uses rewards to build value and wealth habits. Habits begin to look like a natural extension of daily life. That is the epilogue of this experiment. The actual timeline split into 3 clear moments. The first month brings awareness, discomfort, and micro wins. The third month shows structural changes in routine. And the 6th month reveals identity shifts and sustained behavior. In the first month, celebrate small victories and maintain accountability. Set up a weekly meeting with Sarah and Marcus to review progress and adjust cues. In the third month, increase the stakes. Pick one habit to scale and automate systems for it. Replace monthly subscriptions with a savings ritual. Schedule automated transfers and align spending with long-term goals. In the sixth month, create rituals that cement the identity. Morning rituals that include reading, planning, and measurable financial moves. Teach an apprentice, one friend who asks for help, and keep a ledger of lessons learned. These three passages together form a narrative of transformation, not overnight, but certain, if you do the work. If this made sense, subscribe to the channel where we will build step-by-step systems to reprogram the mind and create durable wealth habits. This place is not for quick fixes. It is for people who accept the work. Slow discipline of change. Share this video with someone who needs a concrete path. And write in the comments, "I am rebuilding my mind," so we can hold you to it. The mind you train in silence will be the voice that guides you in chaos. Choose today to move the address of your pleasure from short-term relief to lasting progress and start building the habits that pay compound rewards for the rest of your life.